They're going to try to stop it. They are trying to stop it right now. Okay, so the question is, are they going to win? And I think the answer long term is, no, they're not. Okay, so what's going to happen? Well, that's the second side of this story. The second side of the story is that, remarkably, technology actually has the capacity to transform politics. Right? And this is like not obvious, but if you think about it, it sort of is. Right? So basically, this is a huge revolution in information technology. It's just affecting everything. Just watch kids walking along the street, right? They're all plugged in, right? They're all texting, and they're on their phones and they're on their laptops, and it's happening everywhere. And the unions just can't keep it out of the schools completely, right? It is seeping in to the education process. As it seeps in slowly, things begin to happen that are politically consequential. One, technology gets substituted for labor. Right? And as this plays out over a period of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I'm not talking about tomorrow, the number of teachers per student is going to go down. Right? That's the way this is going to work. Well, that means the number of union members per student is going to go down. This is a real problem for the unions. To the extent that technology comes in, they are in political trouble. Members are the core of their power. Right? A second thing that happens is, to the extent that more courses are taken online, the teachers don't have to be concentrated in the district, and the students don't have to be concentrated in the district. Geographic concentration is the key to union organization. Having all the teachers in the same place at the same time is what it's all about, right? But if half of your teachers are somewhere else, and they don't have to be anywhere close by, they can be in India, right? They can be in the next county, they can be in another state. It doesn't matter where they are. Well, this is a terrible organizational problem for the unions over time. Okay, a third thing, competition. The more virtual charter schools there are, the more money and jobs will flow out of the regular districts, and the fewer unionized teachers there will be, right? Because all these other options are mainly non-union, right? So you start putting these things together, they all work in the same direction. You play this out 10, 20, 30 years, union power is going to ebb. Doesn't mean they're going to go away. It'll just ebb. Well, when it ebbs, they're less able to block. If they're less able to block, these reforms are going to start to go through. And it's not just the technology reforms. It's all the other reforms. Accountability, school choice, pay for performance, all the other things. The less they're able to block, the more these things can go through. And the more these things go through, the less powerful they're going to be. Because all these things tend to undermine their power. Well, the less powerful they are, the more these things are going to go through, right? It's a positive reinforcement cycle, right? So long term, I think, they're in serious trouble. Okay, so what you get then is not just high-tech schools. I think what we get long term is a freeing up of the political process so that we get a broad range of reforms that can go through, whatever works, right? So as John Chubb and I look ahead, what we see is a new era for America's schools, one in which the education system is more dynamic and more productive, and in which the political system is more open and responsive. It doesn't mean that this is going to be some kind of nirvana. There'll be plenty of problems. Not all schools are going to be great in the future, and we're not going to have a perfect democracy, But the fact of the matter is, what we should be concerned about is progress. Right? And I think we're going to get significant progress. Reformers have been butting their heads against a wall of power for almost 30 years. And because of technology, that wall is going to come down. And this nation, for the first time, is going to simply be able to do what's right, for kids, instead of what's right for the adults, that run the system. Right? This is a revolution. That's why we call it the liberation of learning. Right? Because the nation is liberated, literally, to do what's right for kids. Okay. Now, when we explain this to the Hoover donors, right, my own land, their reaction was, well, that's no good, right, because it's not going to happen right away. We're old, right? We want to see this thing happen now, right, and say, sorry, what can I do? But the addendum here is it doesn't have to take 30 years because you can do something about it, right? You can make it happen faster than that by recognizing what this is. See, now almost nobody recognizes the revolutionary potential of technology. This is a revolutionary force, right? And it can be used to bring about a revolution. It needs to be harnessed. And right now, people who should be harnessing it just don't know that they can do that. Okay, you can do that. Okay, so what can you do? Well, basically all the laws that are out there are written for the traditional system, right? And the unions and others are using those laws to undermine the emergence of virtual schools, right? They'll say, oh yeah, well what you're doing violates the law. You can't do that, right? So the laws need to be changed. You can do that. So it's not just sort of allowing virtual schools, it's also consciously promoting them, right, so that we can move this along much more quickly. So among the other things that you can do, you can adopt laws that explicitly authorize virtual schooling, right? You can ensure that these schools get adequate funding. I think long term they're going to cost a lot less than regular schools, but right now they have to pay for infrastructure and all these things, right? These are all the startup costs, the most expensive period for them. They need money, right? And they need money that has nothing to do with like seat time and the other standard criteria. You got to have new criteria that are appropriate for them, like course completion or something like that, right? That's tied to what they actually do. All students should be given a right to take virtual courses, and all districts should have a duty to provide them with those options. This is the way it is in Florida now. Florida is just a beacon of innovation. You know, I bow down before the Florida people. Florida is just a real path-breaking state, and we can all learn from what they have done there. Enrollment caps. There are some states that have done that, thanks to the unions. Oregon, Wisconsin, and a few other places, they have to be removed. Right? This should be demand-driven. If people want it, they should be able to get it. We should take advantage of markets. Right? I think what a lot of people think is, okay, state-level virtual schools, right? Florida has a state-level virtual school, which is just absolutely fantastic, right? It's 10 times bigger than the next largest state virtual school. But in the end, we don't want to have the state running everything, right? Because those schools, on average, are likely not to be as innovative and dynamic and so on. What we want is a marketplace. There is a marketplace. There are lots of private firms out there, right? This is really a source of genuine innovation and dynamism, and we need to take advantage of that. And finally, there needs to be regulation, right? And I'm not a big fan of regulation. I know a lot of you aren't. But we need to have basic regulations so that other people will say, okay, we have confidence in this system, right? So these schools need to be held accountable for their performance. They need to be held accountable for how they spend their money, so fly-by-night operators can't proliferate. Teacher certification needs to be changed so that these schools can easily get teachers, like so that a school that goes in to teach in South Carolina can actually use teachers from somewhere else, like reciprocity agreements, for instance, that don't require that these teachers from elsewhere actually get certified in South Carolina. And there needs to be a way of accrediting these schools, right? There already is, but it needs to be recognized as legitimate and so on. So bottom line here, and I'm just concluding right now. This is a real revolution in the making. This is huge, and it's sort of a secret, right? It's not like people are out there saying technology is a revolution. Nobody's saying that, but it is. We are so lucky, right? It's like we almost titled our book "The Asteroid and the Dinosaurs," and the reason is it's like not a joke, right? The reason is that this revolution in information technology happened for reasons that had nothing to do with education. It's like the Earth got hit by an asteroid, right? It just came from the outside, boom, right? And then here we are, right? We can take advantage of the new environment, right? Everything is different now, right? And you are in a position to do something about it. You can make this happen much faster than otherwise once you take advantage of what technology really has to offer. All right, thank you.